Oh, nice. Or Big Will.
Hey, everybody, we are live, and DS is pointing out the fact that he is the holder, he is the master of the Big Will icon on his square. And hopefully, we're going to have WhoDat Comics and Movies joining us. But I'm Big Will, down below me in the basement because
Who gets it when WhoDat joins?
You let out
Like,
the Don Dada.
where do we move?
Comic Books NYC.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Glad to be
And
here.
of course, to the side of me is the great, the legend, the fantastic DS Comics.
What's up? Good to be here, man. I love talking about specking and investing in comics generally, so I'm always down for a good discussion.
I love just listening to DS talk. That's it. That's
Thanks, man. You're in the vocal minority, I think.
I think so.
Well, I've been watching and listening and different channels and other people, and I've noticed that it seems like everyone tends to. All right, WhoDat's about to join us, and I've noticed that it seems like everyone talks about investment books or investment grade books, and then they talk about spec books, and then of course every book is
books to invest in 2020.
Every book's a collectible book, but a lot of people seem to get confused on the difference between a speculation and an investment. And that's kind of the basics of what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm going to start off the conversation and say that this book I'm going to hold up here is an excellent spec book right now. It's it's still pretty cheap, raw. You get it graded, I think a 9.8 is like a couple $100. So, this is a good potential for spec. However, I would say that this, at least now, is a horrible investment. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into what is an investment too, because until you define that, you can't really explain the difference that well. But here's the book. It's X-Men #4 from 1991, I believe. And it's the first appearance, of course, of Omega Red, a second, third tier villain of Wolverine, and this one happens to be a newsstand, so that helps it out just a little bit.
It does help it a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. And so, we'll just use this book as our jumping off point, and we'll fill WhoDat in once he arrives. So, well, first off, would you agree with my assessment there, fellas, or what would you want to say on that book in particular?
Well, it's I think it's probably a decent spec. If you're specking, that's a good spec. It's a villain that hasn't had any attention. You sort of have to define the difference between spec and investments to determine what's what. But as an investment, when I look at investments the way I do it now for comics, I like stuff that's going to have solid demand all the time, and the price is going to appreciate steadily over time. And I want the demand to always outpace the supply. And for generally what that means is you're looking for stuff relative to other stuff in whatever group it is with a lower supply. That book has a very high supply. It's very easy to find. There's millions of them out there, almost literally. There's hundreds of thousands of them out there. So you need really, really peak high demand to keep that book price going. And so as a long-term investment, that's going to be tough because I don't see that there's going to be a perpetual super high demand for Omega Red to match the supply of that book. So I agree.
I agree with
investment demand. Demand will go up and down with spec markets. And if the demand pops above the supply, the price will go up. But it's not going to ever stay there for a book like that. You'll have temporary pops of demand going above the supply line and then dropping quickly back down. So if you can get in underneath that supply line and get out above the supply line, you can make some money on it. But that's my initial view on that one.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. Like, that's I firmly put that book in the column of a spec book of a if you can get it, if you can get it on the cheap, it's a good quick flip. That's most spec books fall under that, get it on the cheap, and whether you're getting it graded or whatever, flip it quickly type scenario. You make a quick profit on it. You're speccing on the fact that there's short-term interest on that book, but not necessarily long-term interest on that book, right? Which is sort of the core difference between spec and investment is short-term interest versus long-term reliable interest, blue chip, either blue chip or scarcity, right? Like in some of the categories that DS collects, for example, he's got that going for him, right? And I just bought, and WhoDat and I both have this book. We're both owners of TMNT #1 first print, right? Like that's a book where it's clearly for me, and I think for him in the investment column. Not just because we're personally collectors of that title and of that brand and of that fandom, if you will, but that's a book where we're gonna pay an upfront premium for it, but it has such long-term potential value to increase because that brand is healthy, live, and thriving, and is it's a 35-year-old brand. Like, I'm gonna get 15 more years of enjoyment of being an owner of that, and then the 50th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is gonna hit in the year 2034, which seems far away, but not really. Like, so I look at that as a long-term. I look at that as a long-term investment. And, maybe that's the time for me where I'm like, okay, I've had my enjoyment being an owner of this TMNT #1. It's time to let it go because that's an opportune time to take advantage of an investment opportunity for a big book like that.
And WhoDat, to get you caught up, by the way, welcome. Thanks.
I literally was getting something to eat.
To get you caught up, I held up this book, X-Men 4 from the 91 series, and said that it's a great spec, but it would be a horrible investment. And DS said his spiel, and you just heard the tail end of what NYC was saying. So any thoughts on that?
Well, the reason why I think it's a great, like you said, a great spec, but I wouldn't, it's a good book, first off. Like you said, it's a great spec. Reason why I believe, like you said, a great spec, because you can still find that book for $1. You still can.
Yeah. Exactly.
You could find it maybe max $5 because my shop always has them. And they put them for $5, and they always are like near mint. To me, that's still a good sweet price because with the people pushing and hyping up that book, and if that character shows up,
right, you can flip it for $30. You can flip it for $50,
40,
whatever.
50. Yeah, it can go up a lot more. But I wouldn't be like, oh, let me hold on to this book for, like he said, like
for years,
for like 30, 40 years. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. And to touch on like the Turtles thing he was talking about, like Turtles, that's even if you had to pay a premium for that type of book, but you say you don't collect it, but you have to pay a premium, like you said, in 15 years, maybe even 20 years, you got these people who were born in the 80s, starting to get a lot of money, or starting to make their own money. It's that golden age kind of mentality. They're going to be looking for these books, this character that they remember watching on TV, cartoons, and all that stuff. And, oh, man, I want to get that book. And guess what? There's only 3,000 that were made.
And that has the scarcity thing going for it as well. You know what I mean?
So, I think only like 1,600 have been graded. So there's probably about 1,000 of them not even exist anymore.
And I think 2 to 500,000 would be the print run for this one, probably.
Yeah, and that's a book. Is like if you hear the spec, they make an announcement, or somebody on other channels are pumping it, and you have a few extra copies, I would say get out immediately before Sunday, because it will be flooded, and then it'll go from a $40 to $50 book to back to a $20 book, which is still a profit if you only paid $5 for it. But I don't like the hassle of making a profit that little and having to ship it out in eBay or stuff like that.
It bugs me a little when I see things like, these are the books to invest in this year, and they're all kind of tied around movie news and really, short-term market drivers, right? Market factors. That's not really investing. That's like to our main point here. That's speculating.
In my book, before you continue on that point,
sure.
Let me just say how I define an investment. Let you guys, and then we need to talk about a video that DS did that's right on point with what you were saying about ASM 300. and a good investment that it is. So as for me, I define an investment as a book that I plan on holding for 5 years or longer. So it has to also be of note for 5 years or longer. For example, NYX3, it qualifies.
Yeah.
Immortal Hulk #2, Naomi 1, they do not qualify right now. So while they may be specs, I would not call them an investment. How do you guys define an investment book?
Well, for me, there's three different things you can do in comics if you're trying to make money. You can invest, you can spec, or you can flip. So I'll just give you my quick definitions. Just as a background for anybody who doesn't know, I'm in my 40s. I have dabbled in the stock market before. There was a period of time where it was probably 3 to 4 years worth where I was doing some stuff in the stock market. I do stuff in comics now, so I don't have a massive investing background, but flipping is basically like arbitrage. That's where you buy stuff right now that's undervalued and you flip it for fair market value. And there's a difference between what it goes for and what you can get it for. And that's just a flip, and that's based on current values. You just buy something undervalued and sell it higher. That's a flip. That's the easiest way to make money. You just find stuff undervalued and flip it for fair market value. And you can do things to up the value. You get raws that are crumpled, you press them and get them slapped. That's that. Speccing is a type of investing where you are trying to get stuff that's dirt cheap with the hopes that some event or something will happen that cause that price to spike in the very near future, and you can get out quick and make a massive profit percentage-wise. It's very risky as far as losing your investment, but you often don't have a lot to lose. So you might put a couple bucks into a comic book, it doesn't work out, you lost a couple bucks. So there's the amount of risk is low, but there's a lot of losers.
It's swing trading. It's like, the first thing you talked about is day trading. That's swing trading, and then real investing is like mutual funds, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's
money market account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would buy something that has what I consider intrinsic value, regardless of what's going on outside of the book, outside in the environment, the movies, pop culture, whatever. It's got intrinsic value. It's what's within the book that has value, and that value, I believe, will appreciate over time. It's basically supply and demand. Demand will continue to be high. Supply is always going to be under that. So you're going to have it appreciate over time on a nice line going up. And those, I don't usually set timelines on them. Although when I buy a book like that, I feel like sometimes it's a 10-year book and sometimes it's a 1-year book. And it's just, you don't know where the price is going to move. Sometimes something else bumps it up high quicker than you expected. Then I'll get out of it. Sometimes it drags for a while before it starts to increase. So, I never know with the longer term investments how long it's going to be. I sort of wing it. But on the specs, the thing that's tough about speccing is you need to get in and out very precisely. And it's tough to do sometimes in the comic market because slabbing takes time, pressing and cleaning takes time. You list it on eBay auctions for a week. I've had stuff I've tried to spec before.
And attention spans are small.
It fizzled out 2 days before my auction ended. So, I don't really do that stuff anymore. But you got to be in and out quick. You got to be precise. You got to stay on top of the news. And you can make large percentages of gains on small amounts of money. For me, it's too much work to keep up on everything.
Same.
For me to do that, I don't do it because I don't have the time to put in to keep track of all the news and everything that's making it move up and down. So I can't. I don't feel like I could time it well enough to make it worth my while. So.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel like I don't necessarily say, okay, it has to be, I got to hold on to this book for 5 years. Like I feel like I'm going to be pretty flexible, but there's definitely an intention to hold a book longer when I'm thinking of it as an investment, or even as maybe even as a shorter term spec, like you're saying, versus a flip. A flip is it is pure grinding. You know what I mean? It's grinding it. And I don't play that game anymore. I've experimented playing that game in the past, and just like you, DS, I find that it's just too much work for too little, actual dollars involved for me to mess with it. But I totally dig that there are guys that sort of can supplement their income doing that. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you're willing to put work in, there's guys like,
yeah, if they put in the work, they deserve it. You know?
Economics and Comics will do 8-hour-long auction by himself on his channel, selling $1 to $10 books, and make a few grand, and he puts in a lot of work. He enjoys it. He's good at it, and he's got his little thing going, and he's doing well at it. I don't like that. I like much fewer heavy hitters, so to speak. And heavy hitter, I mean, $150 to $200 is a good entry level sort of heavy hitter book. You don't have to be in and out so quick. You don't have to spend so much time. You can pick up 1 or 2 a week. Maybe one big one a month, and you can make as much as flipping hundreds and hundreds of dollar books and track.
Yeah, exactly. Without sending 100 packages out in the mail.
Yeah, the shipping. Oh my God, I hate packing.
And dealing with 100 different people's feedbacks on wherever the hell you're talking.
That's
about.
why I like not to promote it, but I'm doing my little mystery boxes. I made it a point not to do more than 10 because I didn't want to deal with all the shipping. I didn't want to, and then I didn't want to make people upset. But I know the value's in there because I took the time to research everything. But the shipping is, I hate doing it. I'm not even though I do a lot of auctions, I hate doing it. I'll skip rounds and be like, I'm good, because I don't want to ship more than 3 or 4 things out at a time. But to get back and like the speculating, flipping, and all that stuff, those kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I'm a little bit different for the specking or flipping thing, because sometimes books will get hot, and since I just have it here, this book will get hot.
Yeah,
I didn't go. Oh, let me go all over the place to go find it. I went to my LCS, not immediately. I went like later. I don't even know if I went Wednesday. I think I went for Friday, and I do that a lot of times. A book will get hot, and I'll just see if they have it. I'm gonna pay cover price. That means I don't have a lot invested in it.
Yeah.
So if it gets even hotter than the $40 it's at, it's even better. If it goes lower to a $10 book, I'm still in the money. I only pay cover. Yeah. So that's kind of how I don't go crazy and have to get on eBay. And I know a lot of people don't have LCSs, but what I found out about this community of people, if you just message somebody, they might be able to find it for you for cover price, and you don't have to pay shipping. You just have to put yourself out there and open up. Yeah. And as far as investing things, I like to invest in things I like. Same. If I don't like it, I don't want to keep it long term. I'm not a DC guy. Never was. I like certain movies of DC because I'm a movie guy. I love movies, so it doesn't matter about who makes it or whatnot. But I've always read Marvel, or you would say, was it IDW with Turtles? So I'll buy things that I'm interested in. And if it's a long-term, investment, then that's gravy for me, because I love that character, love that book, love that company. And I don't mind holding it longer. I don't have to sell it immediately because I don't try to get into it a lot. I'm all about deals. And a lot of people might have heard this before in the chat. If you're trying to buy something, even if you go to your LCS, if you see something, or if you're going to your LCS, bring cash. If you have a couple of $100 in your account extra, just bring it with you. You can put it back, right. If they don't have anything there, because you never know when you walk in the shop like I did. I was going just to pick up my pull list, my Turtles and my X-Men. I walk in, they have a New Mutants 98 near mint. They have an 87 near mint. X-Men 260. They have all kind of, like, they just bought a collection out of the blue. And I'm walking in like, oh, crap. Luckily, I had a few dollars in my pocket, but I didn't get all of those books because I didn't bring enough. And if you look up those books, you're going to pay probably New Mutants 98, a couple $100 maybe for a near mint condition one. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more depending on the person, depending on the area.
I went to a con about 2 weeks ago, and not a single vendor had it for under 300 raw.
And I got it for under 100 because I went there with cash. They were actually about to do a sale that evening because it was like they're in a Christmas party. So they were like, yeah, we'll do it for 15% lower than where we want.
Right, but you're looking at a book like that as that's a short-term flip opportunity. Even though that some may argue that book has investment potential, it's a short-term flip book in my opinion.
When I saw both of those New Mutants, it was short term because I know Disney just got the rights back for X-Men. They're going to make a Deadpool again. It made too much money, regardless if it's rated R, PG-13. People need to don't worry about that. It made too much money for Fox on a low budget. That's the game of people don't realize movie industry or TV shows, mainly movies. It's all about profit. Even if they make $1 profit, they're most likely going to make a sequel. They're going to do it again. They're all about profit. If a movie loses money or doesn't really break even, like Shazam was a good movie. I haven't even watched it, but Shazam was a good movie. It really didn't make any money.
Well, the thing about Deadpool, I don't want to go on such a side tangent about Deadpool, but the thing about Deadpool is that the movies
why don't I set you up
more interest than the books. You know what I mean?
Let me set a Deadpool tangent up for you, MIC, and you just take off on him. I saw DS shaking his head when you talked about investment, and I would say that Deadpool New Mutants 98 is not an investment yet. He's only been this hot for, 4 years?
Something
maybe
like
5.
He had a cult following, and then he got really popular
and
because
it was a $20 book before then. So Deadpool has a potential to be an investment book, but not in the sense like you're going to get year-over-year gains, just in the sense that he's going to plateau and not dip very much. But he's not an investment book yet. He's still just a spec.
I agree with that. Did I not? Did I say otherwise? Because
Here's on New Mutants 98. All right, so let's look at it as an investment. For an investment, I want something that has good intrinsic value. That book does have good intrinsic value. It's the first appearance of a very popular major character in Marvel. He's had a very strong following, even going back into the early 2000s, into 2007, 2008. There was a lot of Deadpool stuff out there. Very popular character. They're doing movies, so it's got good intrinsic value. But the other part of an investment, so let's look at that. It's worth it. It's got intrinsic value. Look at the price structure of it. Sometimes, IBM or Microsoft or GE are good investments, but not right now. Maybe the price is too high. And that's what I think the case is with New Mutants 98. I think if you look at why the price is what it is right now, you will see it's not just based on the intrinsic value. It's based on this super hyper popularity of Deadpool in the culture right now with movies and
Ryan Reynolds Deadpool.
Yeah, it's been a saturation of character in pop culture. So is that saturation going to increase? I don't think that's possible.
I don't think so either.
Is it going to maintain? I don't think that's probable. It'll probably slide down as far as popularity and saturation in the market, in pop culture. And that means the price of the book will go down. So I think it's a good investment, but not at, probably between $600 and $700 for a 9.8. It was going on
right now.
$1,000 a couple of years ago. I think that book's going to settle down to like $300, $350 for a 9.8. At that point, I'll look at it. It might be a good investment at that point. But right now, I think it's overpriced, but it's got a good intrinsic value.
Man, I like Deadpool. He's my second favorite character. I was looking for a raw copy, and I found one online for $20. But at the time, I didn't have even $20 to spend on it, so I passed. 2 months later, the leaked footage pops out, and I couldn't even find it for under $300 when I looked online.
So that was like 4 or 5 years ago when you almost got it for 20. Yeah.
I mean,
so now I make sure I don't not have money, or I don't look when I don't have money.
Well, that's also one of the more available books as far as print run for modern, what you call Marvel mega character or whatever. Like, it's not, that's going to water down the average price and also availability of high grade as well.
I would like to add
towards the top end.
I would like to add to that this book, we said probably 300,000 to 500,000 print run. The New Mutants 98, it was canceled New Mutants at issue 100.
Right.
So 98, 99, 100. So it probably had a low print run compared to everyone else
relatively,
but a low
still
print run at that time was like what, 150, 200,000.
Yeah.
and that's still a lot. That's like what the goal is now to get to that.
Yeah, and people don't look at these numbers properly a lot of times. They're like, oh, this has a small print run, or it's a 1 in 50 variant. There are hardly any of them out there, and there's 75,000 of something or whatever. In the scheme of things in the comic hobby, that's a ton of books. You look at something like TMNT1 that has 5,000 copies or something.
Less than 3,000.
Yeah, I mean that is, and you can
for first print. I mean, there's other prints. Yeah,
there's multiple copies of TMNT1 on eBay right now. So even at 3,000 copies, they're available. You start getting into the triple digits, 100,000 copies. You don't only have to worry about the census. There's may only be 800 9/8. That's a ton of books floating around out there. There's a ton of them. When you start getting to 75, 50, 75, 100,000 or more copies floating out there, is a ton of books. So that's a very high supply for any book.
You know what else you see? What you'll see, like the TMNT1 and certain big books, you'll see them on eBay or other sites. But guess what? You see them at I don't want to sell it price.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm okay holding this for 10 years.
Yeah, I'm okay.
And that's the point I was trying to make.
$10,000 for my book, I'll take it and I'll just save and reinvest on it when it dips.
You don't need a lot of demand to be there to drive the price of a TMNT1. Because even on low demand, it's still going to outpace that supply.
Yeah.
But on something like a New Mutants 98, how many people right now, it's at the top of their list, they're actively looking, and they want a New Mutants 98? 20,000 people in the hobby, maybe 50,000 people in the hobby. There's ample.
And they have that many copies to choose from.
Not everybody's looking for a 98.
Yeah, they have that many. They have as many copies of it to choose from as there are people that are interested in it. You know what I mean?
You know what else is cool about the investment thing? And I think the comic book price guide, I didn't buy it last year or the year before, but I know last time I bought it, you look at all those top books, they got the Silver Age, Golden Age, Copper, Bronze.
Yeah.
And they actually have
Overstreet.
They have it on the side and they say percentage of increase. And they do what it does every year, how much increase they've seen in that book, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%. That's a good way people can actually look at too. You can get that book and see, all right, what has increased over time for the last 10, 15, 20 years or whatever.
I'd love to see all these raw book sales data that I guess comic shops are reporting to Overstreet for them to get those, because I don't find it, nearly as reliable as GPA and tracking slab book prices and looking at that kind of data. Like it's just
only data.
We're taking your word for it.
The only ones I kind of believe are usually the big books when it's those top 3 or 4, because you can kind of look at GPA and they usually are right on point.
Yeah.
But when you go a little further down, it's kind of, I wouldn't believe he sold he sold a Journey Mystery 101 for $10,000. You're like, come on, really?
Right, yeah.
So we had a DS actually answered a little bit. We had a request in the chat from Z Collects. So let's do a tale of 2 books. One is a decent investment, a great spec. Another one's a great spec, but probably not a good investment. And that is Savage She-Hulk #1 and ASM 300. And I said those in order of the one that's probably a decent investment versus the one that's probably not.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that? And let me be clear, I'm saying the ASM 300 probably isn't that good of an investment, but a great spec. It's got at least one more spike coming. And then the Savage She-Hulk #1's a decent investment and a good spec.
I got a feeling that ASM probably has 1 or 2 spikes. If they tie in MCU, you're going to see a big spike. I hate to say it like that.
Yeah, I think ASM 300, if you watched my video on it, I'm not sold on the current values of that book because the intrinsic value is there. It's first appearance of Venom, very popular character. Venom's not going anywhere. He's not going away. So that's a solid book. Venom, again, has been this saturation in the comic market and in pop culture. And there was a movie which was, averagely received. I really liked it. Some people didn't, but I think it was moderately good.
Did well financially, though.
Yeah, it's a decent movie. The secret's out. The word is out on Venom. I don't think anything they're going to do is going to pop ASM 300 higher. It's been, you know, 2,500 a couple years ago. It's been slowly just dragging its feet for years.
It's the most graded book on the census. Am I wrong about? Am I correct about that?
I thought it was Hulk 181.
Oh, is it Hulk 181? I think it might be ASM 300 actually.
They have over 20,000 graded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many out there, and I think
Hulk 181 is only over 10,000.
Yeah.
I don't see Venom becoming more popular than he has as a character. There might be little spikes here and there on particular books on eBay or whatever. I mean, you'll see somebody pay when the new Venom movie comes out. You will see a GPA sale all of a sudden at 3,000. It doesn't mean that book is selling for 3,000. It means somebody ran out and overpaid for that book at 3,000.
Yeah. So
there'll be a couple places here and there where people will pay a little more. But I think overall the market for that book, it's pretty topped out. You're going to do a Venom movie or do some new Venom variants. I mean, what are you going to do that people are going to be like, oh, we need to get in on Venom? I mean, the word's out on Venom.
It's a great book to swing trade. You have to get in. You have to get in, you know, as low as you can, and then and capitalize on opportunities to sell it to make a profit on it. But I don't put it into that investment while also enjoying for personal collection sake column like I do other big keys.
Yeah. Here's the data on it. Just with CGC, not counting CBCS, there's 21,838 copies graded, and from 8.5 to 9.6, there's over 2, sometimes over 3, or over 4,000 copies in those grades. Over 1,200 and 9.8, and 10 copies at a 9.9.
Right. Yeah. Find me that Ark of the Covenant 10.0 of ASM 300. That's an investment book right there. You know what I mean?
The price
Somebody has it probably in a shop.
Right.
Essentially the same price as it was in 2017. So for 3 years, that price on that book has not moved at all. And they've done tons of Venom stuff in the last 3 years. And there's little pops here and there, but generally it's pretty much maintained right around $2,000 with some pops up and down below that. But it's about a $2,000 book for the last 3 years. Think about the amount of Venom stuff they've been doing. And that book hasn't moved. That tells me that they've reached the max saturation. It's fully saturated in the market.
Yeah, similar story as New Mutants 98.
I was going to say similar to the Carnage too.
Yeah.
I think it's topped out right
361.
now.
Yeah.
You can't do more Venom stuff than they've been doing, and the price hasn't moved. So I think it's sort of reached a ceiling for saturation. I don't see it going up above 2,000 generally. And I think it'll probably go down for a while before it starts picking back up again.
I also think it's the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. And then to touch on that She-Hulk, I think that's one of Stanley's last time him writing. Isn't it the last character he created?
Last major character, I think, that he created.
Yeah, he created. Yeah, so it has a lot going for it too. To me more so than only thing I think would make me want a 300 more than a She-Hulk if I had the opportunity. If the 300 I can get it besides a good price, if they were all signed by everybody that had created that character at that time, even the editor, like that would make me just kind of like, oh, this is really cool. Because what's the odds of you're gonna have all creators, signing? I'm talking about all, not just
that's a different thing, because then
that's a different thing though.
Then you're taking a book that is widely available and creating a scarce version of it, right? Yeah, that's a different.
Yeah, that's the only thing that would differentiate me. But I think the She-Hulk has way more potential, especially for long term. With all the things that you need to people do a little research, you find out about it with the Stan Lee background and stuff like that. And then with that white cover,
stockpile those bad boys now. Yeah. And benefit from a 3 to 5 year investment climb on that.
Yeah, because they're starting with Disney Plus with that character, and that's going to lead to the movies because they already made that announcement that the Disney Plus is in the MCU and will go into the movies. So that book will be, I don't even know how to say it, but it'll be a couple $100 for a raw copy. Easy.
It will be.
Yeah.
All right. So
I agree with that. And if you look at also another thing, consider is census on these books too. When you look at ASM 300 and there's over 10,000 on the census.
22,000.
Over 20.
22,000 on the census. There's probably 10 times that not on the census. You probably have a million of those books floating around out there, or whatever. She-Hulk is from 1980. There's far fewer out there, although there's probably a lot on the census. There's probably like 4,000 or something. But
it's probably a lot less out there just because it was, it was a female character back then. People weren't really buying those type of characters. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It was female characters, so they didn't have a high.
Right, and you're not going to find as many that were taken care of.
Yep, because people probably gave it to their kid or daughter, and it turned from a 9.8 to a 7.0 like instantly.
Exactly.
I think She-Hulk has got a lot more room to go up from where it's at now than ASM 300 is going to be maintained or drop, in my opinion.
6,000 graded, Will?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't see you guys right now, so I didn't mean to. No. It's 6,668 graded She-Hulks, Savage She-Hulks on the census, and funny enough, there is over 2,000 in a 9.8. There's more 9.8s of Savage She-Hulk than there are of ASM 300.
Well, ASM 300 is a notoriously hard book to come back in 9.8 or try to get graded in 9.8 these days.
And one thing I'd like to add.
So many are already graded.
And one thing I'd like to add on She-Hulk before we go to my next book that I wanted to talk about was 85 to 95% of its print run was newsstand. So don't overpay just because it's a newsstand versus a direct. So just be careful for people trying to trick you there.
It's the opposite from Image. The newsstands are more rare for Image than they were.
Another book that I don't have, for a reason that I'm about to say, is a great spec, but I would say it's probably not a good investment. What If number 10?
Is that Jane Foster?
First Thordis. On the cover, it's Thordis, but it's first Jane Foster as a Thor type character. Would you guys agree with me or disagree?
What was your take on it again?
Great spec, probably not a good investment.
I agree. I don't even think I would have touched more into it because I agree with it so much that it doesn't.
If Jane Foster is Thor going forward, there's going to be more interest in her first appearance. But I'm telling you, man, I just can't get past the fact that she's not Thor. I don't care if she is Thor. She's not Thor.
She's not Thor. It's a different character. Yeah.
You can't take a character that's been around since 1963 or whatever, and all of a sudden Jane Foster's Thor and have it. It's
Jane Foster with the power of Thor. That's how it should be said.
Right.
Jane Foster with the power of Thor and then it's not a long, like you said, not a great long term. It's a good if you can get it cheap, get it and get rid of it.
The reason why that one
the actress only signed for one movie.
Well, there's that. There's the whole Natalie Portman element to it, and probably one and done as far as the movie. But there's also the market confusion over that book versus Thor #1, from the Jason Aaron, whatever that
the actual first,
the in continuity one.
Yeah, the continuity version, and that one being a modern book that's
Yeah, but isn't the what if is not a continuity thing? It's what if.
It's a what if. Yeah.
Like hypotheticals are ever going to really count. Like the what ifs. There's a lot of stuff in those what ifs.
There's a lot of things that could be pointed at as true first.
Besides, even on the what ifs cover, it's not her as Thor. It's her as Thordis.
Yeah,
something like that. It's not even Thor. And I would like to also point out that I believe her being Thor in the comics was maybe a year-long storyline, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it was a year, and then.
So what investment are they going to do with a storyline that lasted a year?
Well, they just keep evolving that character and turning her into other things. Now she's Valkyrie, or whatever, right?
Intrinsic value, but it's on the low end as far as I'm concerned. If you can find one cheap, it's probably not going to go back into the dollar bin. But I don't see it having.
No, it's an affordable wall book from here on out, but it's not an investment grade candidate.
It's got some value, but I don't know that it's got a lot of potential.
All right, so that actually went a lot faster than I thought it would.
Can I bring up one book? I don't know if y'all talked about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The book that I think, and I've been trying to get one for my personal collection, and then mainly for long term too, is Miles Morales.
Yeah.
His first appearance is steadily going up, and they have a lot of factors with that.
I kick myself for not loading up on that book.
Oh yeah, because I could have bought. I could have
really
bought it. I saw them on eBay one time. Someone was selling like 30 of them for like $100 or something.
I almost bought like a collection of like 20 of those.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, and I didn't pull the trigger on it.
And the reason why I say I think that's a long term and a good investment, because I go back and look at what Black Panther did movie wise. A lot of people weren't expecting what they expected for Black Panther. A lot of people don't know. I don't know 100% the numbers of the movie wise what it did, because
it's an animated movie.
I think if they do it kind of like in that
I think
when
live
action, it's
inevitable that they're gonna to maximize the IP.
Yeah, because Black Panther made 1.3 billion in that range. 800 plus million was in the U.S. money wise. That's insane. That made more money, I think, than Infinity War made in the U.S. And people don't realize that. And I think what happened was that's why people like, when is Black Panther 2 coming out? Because Disney took a step back and was like, whoa, we weren't expecting this. Because if you look at it, they didn't have any marketing really. They didn't have any toys, clothes, any of that stuff at that time. Because people I know around here were like, I want a Black Panther shirt. I want a Black Panther shirt. I found one somebody just made on eBay and bought one, So I think that character, because it's not saying we're going to get rid of Peter Parker. I think they're going to try to touch on money-wise another spectrum of
well, we made the point earlier about TMNT turning 50 in 2034. Well, Miles Morales turns 30, and the generation that's obsessed with him now grows up. And they're looking at those 9/8, those 1 in 25 incentives. You know what I mean? When they're starting to, be out in the workforce and have supplemental income, like it's inevitable. You can see it. You can see it down the line. It's just
they've done a lot of where they've taken traditional, long-standing characters and changed the identities to give them a fresh look. And this is probably going to sound sexist or whatever, but whenever they keep the female to female or male to male, it works. You know what I mean? The history behind that character. When you take Thor and make it, and now there's a woman Thor, it doesn't work. You take Iron Man and now it's a teenage girl, that doesn't work. When you take Spider-Man and you make a different, as a new Spider-Man, that can work. There's a flow that's not. It doesn't. I don't know. I feel like a lot of.
I like how you're going.
Can't wait till we start seeing the girlfriends turn into dudes, though.
Well, the thing I like about certain aspects of certain characters is like, they didn't change like Iron Man to female. She was like a different character that So I like how they explain that way. But like the Thor, like turning her, like that's kind of different from. Yeah, that's more direct than like. She was another character that became in and then the Spider-Man. And I like how they do it that way, but when they just say, "Oh, James Foster's Thor," you're like, "No." Like if you would have said like change the storyline, maybe like a what if type of thing. It's like if Thor was a female and this is how you could do a little run like that, but not like, "Hey, James Foster, you're Thor."
Yeah, it's dicey. It's dicey to mess with an established character and change it to a whole new identity. And anyway, that's dicey. It's difficult. It's complicated, and it doesn't usually work out. Miles Morales is working out, and I think it probably will.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones they've done have not worked out, and I don't think they will. The Jane Foster is Thor. I don't.
That's why I think that's a one and done movie, and I don't think it's gonna. But I mean, for movies wise and characters, I think if you keep the core essentials of that character, and you change the race. But it still has the core essentials.
Yeah.
Then you're good. Like Miles Morales still has the same core essentials as Peter Parker. You know what I mean?
And they changed the Hulk. They did a lot of different things with Hulk recently too. They had a different guy become Hulk. They've had different types of Hulks. They had the Hulk Marine. They had the Web Page. Those things
to me didn't work out for me.
You don't know. Most of the time, it doesn't work out. Because it just doesn't mesh with what people see that character as over history.
That's true. I find the Gwen Stacy example one of the ones that is like the most unique, wherein that a new version of her character has exploded, taken off, and become sort of that kind of attractive book or attractive investment with the Spider-Gwen, versus her ASM 31 classic Silver Age appearance, not on the cover.
Yeah.
You know, like one of those.
But it's still a beautiful, nice red cover.
Yeah, I mean, I freaking love that book. Don't get me wrong, but that book's never going to be the #1 valued book related to Gwen Stacy. I guess that the market has decided. Right?
It should be.
I mean, at a 9.8, sure, but who's got a 9.8 of a ASM 31 Silver Age book? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Barbarian, you missed 45 minutes of stuff. That's the best.
What's up, Barbarian? I actually got to watch a little of Into the Spider-Verse with Barbarian in Chicago at the Symbiote House. I went and hung out with those dudes for a little while. That was fun.
I'll also say it's tough to invest when they come out with something new, which they're doing all the time. It's tough to know right off the bat if it's going to be a good investment. It's cool stuff to read. It's always fun to read, and I don't discourage people from doing that. It's cool stuff to spec on because you don't have to put a lot in if you're getting it for cover. It's just coming out. But 90% of the new characters, new stuff that comes out doesn't end up having any staying power. And right now, is that stuff going to have staying power? It's really, you don't know yet.
You don't know yet. You just don't know yet.
Yeah, certain things you can figure out, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Like the Jenica thing, everybody who should have knew that when that came out.
I had this right on my desk just as soon as you said that.
I have it to read it. And like that book, like when they did it, I said, oh my God, it's about to be like Turtles #1 all over again. Because the print run was low, like we talked about.
Yeah, it was unexpected. You know?
Yeah, a low print run, and the only people who were reading it knew what was going on. You know, kind of like, so you already had it on your pull list, so you're like, oh, I'm good, I already got it. So
you know what's another one? I have these are 2 books that the boy at 7 gave me as a Christmas gift, but I've got the first Cosmic Ghost Rider and the first Jane Foster Thor at CGC. The Ghost Rider one,
right?
That's another one. I don't know if that has traction or not. I haven't checked it out in a while, but again, I don't know.
I haven't looked at the price movement on that in a minute either, but I was always skeptical on that book and its long-term value.
Yeah, it's tough when they mess with an existing character to know if it's a good investment, but if you want to cover your bases, if you can pick all these things up cheap at cover price and just stick them in a box, you'll get a couple home runs here and there. I don't have the time or the devotion to do that, so I wait until after it's a known thing, and then I'll get into it.
I've only ever experienced that a couple times by accident. You know what I mean? Like totally unintentional accidents. You know, that can happen, and that's great when it happens. But don't expect it to happen.
No.
So we got about 13, 12, something like that minutes left here in the hour. So if we go over, those of you that are still here, great. If everyone wants to get off in an hour, that's fine. But one thing I want to do, I'll go first so you guys have time to think. Give me your best investment comic book and why. I'm going to hold up this one right here. Batman 181, first appearance of Poison Ivy. Awesome year and month, 666. And I personally think that as far as DC Keys, this is the best Silver Age investment in DC Keys because of what hasn't been done as far as media, what price it's at right now for 1 full point below this to maybe a 6, and the fact that it's the only Silver Age Batman character of note to debut in the Silver Age aside from Batgirl, and she is the only DC villain of note. But as far as I know she's the only Batman villain of note to debut in the entirety of the Silver Age. Plus, it's a great looking
first
checks and everything else. So this is a perfect storm for me. I would pick this as one of the best investment grade books that you can get. And it's also currently a spec book too, because they haven't done anything except with the DC Universe Harley Quinn show. That's the only thing that has been done so far. Nothing even hinted at as far as live action movies or TV.
Yeah, I think there's 3 DC Silver Age female keys I think are all good investments. That one, Tech 359, and Lois Lane.
Lois Lane 70, yeah.
I think those 3 are good, solid investments. They're rock solid keys. And among Silver Age DC, there's not a ton of stuff. I think the Batman villain first Silver Age appearance groupings are pretty solid as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hulk 2 is a good investment. The first Green Hulk.
Yeah.
Shadowed so much by Hulk 1. I've been watching that for years, and it just steadily improves in price. I think that's a good one. And I think pretty much any early Fantastic Four issues are good investments. Like, aside
Under
from
100,
one, obviously, like 2 through 20. Those are just, everybody loves Fantastic Four. Everybody wants those books. They're really good. And then, of course, ASM, I'm not even going to mention. What's the point? We don't ASM is the hottest book. Early FFs, I think, are good. Hulk 2 is a good one. And, some of those Silver Age.
I mean, I'm going to cheat a little and just go back to my TMNT #1, but extend that to second print, third print.
Yeah.
Because, like I said,
did it have?
It went all the way to fourth print. And the fourth print is a different cover. The second and third prints are the same, essentially the same cover, just slightly different, there are some issues with counterfeits out there. So you gotta be careful. You know what I mean? It's one of those books, but it's got the fan base, it's got the IP, it's got the merchandise, it's got the following, it's got the continued demand for content across every conceivable medium that you can think of in entertainment, right? And it has a 50th anniversary on the horizon in 10 to 15 years. So a lot of those factors to me make it really interesting. So whether you can get in on a first print, wherever you can get in, or you can get in on a second print now for much cheaper, or third print now for much cheaper, I think the demand is going to be there for that #1 issue for quite a long time, especially in and around that anniversary. And looking also at like anniversary, like timing for things, I also feel like now that the whole craze of the MCU is of the initial phases of the MCU is over, and a lot, you will see price movement come down on Captain America books, things like that, short term. But you also have like the 100th anniversary of World War II coming up in the next decade, right? Or maybe a little bit more than the next decade. And you got a lot of opportunity there, especially for like Golden Age Captain America books, Captain America comics, first volume, timely stuff, as well as, Avengers, 4, right? Avengers 4 for Silver Age appearance, etc. So I look at there, you're not going to find those in dollar bins, but the question is about investment books, right? So if you want to invest and have long-term opportunity, I would say that those are 2 categories that I like to look at right now, obviously. And I put my money where my mouth is. I actually invested in the book that I picked, All
right, WhoDat, what you got?
My investment books that are the ones that kind of, like I said, mean something to me. So the ones I actually been buying and been looking for at shops or what have you. First is, like you said, the Turtles 1. But to give people insight, if you can get a third print, that's what I would tell people to get.
Yeah.
First and second print. First print is out ridiculous. Ridiculous. Second print in certain grades are ridiculous. 9.8, I think, of second print is like 3,000, maybe
something like that. Yeah, 2,500.
That's pretty high for a second print book, even though it's a 9.8, but it's a second print. You could save that 2,500 and probably
put it towards years
in the first print. Yeah, so I would say maybe get a third print. You can get those relatively cheap if you find them at an LCS, and maybe that is trying to get rid of them because those still sell for $500. I've seen because I sold
the high end of the.
I sold one a few months back for $500, so I already know that sells for that much. So I would say third print of that book if you can get it. The Jenica, I would say if you can find her first overall appearance, which is a lower print run than her first Turtle appearance.
Yeah,
you can find that and her first Turtle appearance. That's the reason being for that book. If some people watch the Toys That, I think it's Toys That Made Us, stuff like that. Peter Laird actually has overall control of the comic and how, comic for the Turtles. He sold certain aspects, but he still controls the comic.
Yeah.
So they had to get approval to do Jenica from him and he had to be sold on it. He was sold on it, and I think they have long term. They're going to do with that character, and that's probably the reason why we haven't heard anything about a new movie or anything like that.
And isn't Eastman and Laird like teaming up for some sort of miniseries? Like they're actually
I think so. Yeah, I think they come because they had to, they met up from the TV show and stuff like that, and they basically just it's two older people saying like, man, we were stupid.
I know, right? We let this beef fuck with our lives.
Mess with our money overall, because they actually could have had more money if they would have just stayed together and kept it themselves. But the other book is actually a book that you can actually get for like $20-$30, I think, on eBay raw. But if you get a 9.8 in it, I've seen $200-$300 is first appearance of Riri Williams. I would say get both her first cameo and her first full appearance, because they sell roughly at the same rate. But the first cameo, first full appearance is not an awesome cover. It's okay. But on the label, it says first full appearance. That a reason I'm saying that, because I don't we don't know what they're going to do with Tony Stark or his movie wise. I don't, even if Robert Downey Jr. does come back, the dude's like in his 60s. Come on. I think if he did come back for some strange reason, it could lead to her, or if they just do a scholarship, maybe doing it. I have so many ideas I think they can do with that character and still hold golden to people saying, oh, Tony Stark, because he could be an AI, which they already said he's an AI because he created the AI to talk to them. So that's another character for relatively cheap.
That's a speculative investment, though.
Yeah, it's a speculative investment. The reason because it's a character that I like.
Right.
It's me.
Right, and that's important.
It's important.
Collecting is part of this whole thing too. It's not just.
But that's why I say it's
cheap.
Yeah, it's a cheap book that you can put $30 into. If nothing happens, I don't think it's going to go below $30 because it's been at $30 for years now.
Right.
So it's relatively cheap with a high.
You could buy. You could put. You could put $3,000 into buying 100 copies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And be like the guy, I saw the box of the 300, Amazing Spider-Man 300, and then you had a long box of all 300. You could be that guy and only spend like $1,000. Then all of a sudden it pops, and now the book's worth $1,000 a piece at 9.8. So you never know. But I'll say that's a relatively cheap book. I think people can. I try to think of books that are relatively maybe under a few $100, or even that have a lot. I think staying power, and they can make a long run if they do something with it.
Yeah.
I'm a numbers guy, so.
Well, let's see. We got 57 minutes. We had someone pop this up in the chat. Is this a spec or an investment book? What do you guys think? From Chad RCG.
I that's first appearance of Blue Marvel.
Yeah, Blue Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him, so
I feel like that's a speculative possible investment book down the line. Right now, I feel like it's a speculative book. Personally, I don't know.
It's a speculative book, in my opinion, but the print run makes it investment.
Yeah, that's a good point. It does have a very, very low print run.
Very low print run. And even the trade is actually very low too. Like the trade sells for over $100 at a trade. So it's very low print run. That's the only thing I can see it making an investment. But that's another book that if it's not, it has to be at least 9.6. If it's not a 9.6 or higher, it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. I had one, so that's the only reason I know. But I got out of it, made a few dollars. But it's not a long term. It'd have to be long term.
Yeah.
Archangel Sin says, "What about Silk?" I would say if you want it, get it now, because no one's really talking about her. But I have no idea. I'm not up on Silk. And I'm with him on.
Well, I think that's kind of another. It's a speculative potential with Spider-Verse stuff. There's some.
I would say I would run up and say something better. I would say first Black Cat and first Silver Sable. They announced back then that they were going to do a movie. They tapered off because they didn't know about Venom. Then Venom was successful. That's all I can say about that. So Sony doesn't want to become Fox and have to sell I know they don't because they make too much money on those characters. So I got a feeling they're gonna do something with those characters for Silk. So and then Silver Sable is freaking like a $10 book. You can get a high grade for $10. So and that was like what 320 something
or something.
Yeah, it's 360.
Right,
So it's not that far from 300.
A lot of those books are too new for me to call them investment books. I feel like they're potentially investment books, or you're speculating on the fact that they could be investment books, so which puts them in the speculative column or the speculation column to me.
Yeah, and I think it's such a low price that I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to speculate on those
because Black Cat is one of those books in that all black cover. Hard book to get 9.4 or higher, and it's unless you get a 9.8, it's relatively not super pricey with that black cover.
Right, and we know. I mean, that character has a significant following and establishment within the world of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man collectors. More collectors of that than any other, single title type thing. So the market, the built-in market for that is more established than Silk, for example.
My favorite era of stuff to flip, which I also think are good investments, but they're hot books, is late bronze.
Yeah.
I really like them because from 1975 to 1980, that all falls within CGC's modern sphere.
Right.
Great, yeah.
Slip it into modern. You wonder when they're going to smart up to that. Because
I don't know.
It's inevitable that they will.
I just sent another batch in of that. I love 75 to 80. There's a ton of really
good. You're gonna change it eventually because 80 was 40 years. That's 40 years ago. So
that's good though, man. You send in 10 late bronze, $180 to grade plus the shipping. It's not bad.
But until they do, all day long.
I'm gonna keep doing it.
So with all of that being said, we've been on an hour and 1 minute and some change.
Nice.
Do you guys need us to end broadcast? I'm cool.
Well, you could just wrap up. You can just wrap up organically, but I do have to bounce pretty soon.
All right. Well, let's wrap up by using Barbarian's comment right here. He's talking about Morbius movie coming out, and maybe if it's a success, go to all the horror books. Basically, is what he's saying. I would agree with that. I don't know if they're all investments, but every one of them's a pretty dang good speculation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all those. I think Legion of Monsters magazine, the comic book, I think Savage Tales, Man-Thing, I think all those bronze horror stuff is really good to invest in. And in fact, I do invest in it. I choose pretty much bronze DC horror, Wrightson and Neil Adams for the most part, but that stuff is all really good investment stuff as far as I'm concerned. From House of Secrets 92 all the way down to Man-Thing 1, everything in between, all really rock solid. I think
all right. Well, I guess with that, we will naturally end it.
That was a fun discussion, guys. Fun discussion.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So, hey, we had up to, I think, 12 or 13 in the chat. Thank you all for watching us. I know there's some other stuff going on. Thank you to WhoDat, Kavi, and DS up there. You guys are great.
Appreciate the invite.
I'll be talking to again on Monday, I think, or Tuesday 1 over at JP's channel. And
cool.
See everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
Peace.
All right,